Hi guys, I'm Willow SP. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today I'm gonna be going on a ghost tour for the first time. Yay! I'm not there yet because it starts at 6 o'clock till 11. So I'm a cut to this. And we're here at the Southern Museum, and the ghost tour is gonna start in about like 10 minutes.
Scientifically, okay. The first time this was done was in 1922 by Dr. Joseph Banks Ryan at Duke University. And he coined the term parasite.
Okay, so we're leaving the location because the tour guide just talked about the place, gave an introduction to the paranormal, and just yepped.
But closer so that you can hit me. Right, everybody, welcome to the Maritime Club of Port Elizabeth, which used to be down in the harbour, and then some decades ago it then moved up here, and it was always there for the senior officers of the Navy and other VIPs. And then, as I say, it moved up here. So it's got a long history. It's got several ghosts in it, and it's also our pub stop. It's our only pub stop. Because when we had more pub stops, people had a bit too much and became a bit outlandish, which was difficult for everybody to hear. So we don't have that anymore. But you're welcome to go have spirits of another sort in the pub. Okay. Now there are two pubs. There's this very first one as we walk in, which is a lounge. Don't go there. Go up the corridor to the small pub, that's the main pub, get your drinks, then you can come back down to the lounge. But you'll also be doing some investigations, and I'll get to that in a moment with our ghost hunting apps. Right, one of the first ghosts here is a guy called Mel Channer, who was an old member. And I will tell you his story inside what we call dark room just later on once you've had a drink or two. And his ghost is seen in the following places, and you can go there after you've bought a drink and do your own investigation. The one place you should go to is the snooker room, the billiard and snooker room, okay? There's a very big table over there. I think they played pool on it now. And in that room, when you enter, he is often seen in the back left or back right corner. And if you use your normal camera on your phone, people will capture an orb in that area. And if you have a video on your phone, you will see that orb actually moves. Now we don't always capture it, but you can try to capture it. Then next to the snooker room is the library, which has got chairs in it and Mel Channer's ties hanging on the wall. People often say that when they go in there, the first seat flips up. That used to be his favorite area to sit. That seat wasn't there in those days. They had much older chairs. Maybe he doesn't like the new chairs, I don't know. But people also capture an SLS, I'll tell you about that in a moment, of him in that room and in the snooker room. I'll get to the SLS in a moment. And then the men's toilet, as you cross the threshold, a lot of people feel a cold spot there, and we know it's him, because when visitors come here, they see this old man sitting in this chair in the library And then he goes to the toilet, and then when they wonder where he's gone, they don't see him anymore. So those are the three places that he is seen. In the bar is an old manager and barman of the club who passed away, or passed on, I should say. And his name is Harvey, and he likes to pinch ladies on the derriere. Yes, it means bum, that's right. So if you feel somebody pinching you on your bum, it's not me. It is Harvey. And in that pub, you can go, there's an area where there's a piece of wood hanging up and you have a photo taken underneath it. It says bullshit corner. So it's kind of nice to get a photograph of yourself underneath that. And then to the right of that on the wall, there's a letter from Winston Churchill, Sir Winston Churchill. So it's got a lot of history to it, okay? The final ghost I will tell you about when we're in the dark room later on, all right?
I think this is a place where you're going to have a stop so you can go to the
I'm sorry. I might hear it to myself. This is cool. It's cool.
Sure. Let us many people for a while. Good evening.
Oh yeah, I can call you to your head this time outside your conference yourself, which is fine.
In the back hall, not now.
That is a good day.
What's in here? What's in here? Okay.
You want to go That's what we want to do. Because first wait for all the people to come out. Then we'll go.
Oh, when you're done there, Shay,
Yeah.
meet me in Monaco.
It said sacrifice.
Racker rice?
Records. I don't know what it means. Is it a name? It's a name. I got a name. Over here. It's not fake. Okay. Put both of them. See what happens. See, why is
I think your app is different to mine.
It's the exact same thing. Why is it?
Why is yours picking up something in mine won't?
Oh, I see another both on the same wavelength. You see? Yours is just scanning still. They're both like. See? See, now yours is higher than mine. I don't know what's it.
Wait a minute, what if false positive?
What's sitting here? See if anything happens.
My phone is anti-base.
Oh, it's a grave. Used.
Finally picked up something.
I have a name.
Promise it.
I have a name. So, which is in red. So. What's the name of the person that was there?
I can't remember. Are you finished hunting?
No.
You want to go to that?
I don't know where he is.
It's probably still outside.
Select. Jeez. Okay, well, we got one red way. That we know.
Thanks very much. Should we rather have a piano song and the carol evening instead of a ghost tour?
Yeah.
Come quickly. So those three songs that I just played comes from a certain rock opera. Anybody guess?
Phantom of the Opera.
So because we're on a ghost tour, I decided to play them because it's rather fitting. Oh, thank you for coming. Is this the dog? This is the dog. And balls and don't go. Yeah, so I played them for the Phantom of the Opera, which was suitable for a ghost tour. So yeah, anybody capture anything of their acts? Yeah, quite a few did. Some people showed some stuff which was very, very interesting. Anybody capture a normal photograph of an orb in the sleeping room? If you do, that's very seldom that happens, but if you do, then I do want a copy of it. Good, so who was Mel Chandler? Well, he was a very well-loved member of a club, and he died in his 80s. He could have lived a lot longer. He was a very famous man. If you went into the library there, you saw his ties hanging on the wall. During the Great War, he flew the Lancaster bombers, so that's what he was well known for. And then when he returned to South Africa, he became a sports journalist. And he's also a great rugby fly-half. And the rugby boss, Louis Lake, always said that he was the best fly-half player for or against. And he was well known for that. And he reported on a lot of sports and at a lot of newspapers. And he eventually ended up here at the Herald newspaper. We did drive past the old Herald building, by the way, earlier on, even though the Herald's not in there anymore. And on a more comical note, he once entered a South African's breweries competition, where they had 20 beers lined up in a row, and he had to have quite a sizable portion of each one. And he did this over half an hour, and he kept on doing the sips. All the labels were taken off the bottles, and he actually managed to identify each and every one of those 20 beers. How he was feeling afterwards, I don't know. Feeling like I'm full of spirits of another sort. He would spend his time here at the club in the snooker room, standing in either of those two corners when he was relaxing, and then he'd join in with the game. That's why people capture orbs in that particular place. And then visitors to the club will get confused sometimes if they're new to the club, and they'll say, the old man that was sitting in the library chair there in the corner that went to the toilet, where did he go? We didn't hear him leave. And then they find out from management and staff that they actually spotted a ghost. It doesn't happen very often, but it does actually happen. So, so he's one of the well-known ghosts. Did any of the ladies get pinched on the derriere?
Yes.
You know, the Rocky Horror Show, that eventually became a film, and it became the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You know, it flopped, eh? And then they made it a midnight show, and then it suddenly made millions, and this year it celebrates its 50th anniversary. It's the longest running movie in movie history. And then there's always comebacks from the audience, so I was happy for a few comebacks. Yeah, I was just looking at the anniversary. They were interviewing Tim Curry. He had stroke, he's in a wheelchair, can hardly speak. I'm just throwing that in. So another well-known ghost here is a rather tragic one. And I discovered it by chance because the people that live on this street here, if you walk up the street to the end, there's a fence. And the reason the fence is there is to stop you from falling over into the Markham's Valley, because there's very sharp rocks there. And so I did some investigations, and I eventually traced the story. It took me a while, but I did. And the family asked me not to repeat their name. So out of respect, I won't do that, because some of the relatives are still in PE, but they say I can tell the story. And the story is that up the road here, some of you older Port Elizabethans might remember this, there was a Catholic school called Holy Rosary. Except the convent was there. And there was a young girl who was about 12 years of age. She suffered depression. And one lunch break, she took a walk down the street, apparently. And she went over there towards the edge of the cliff. And we don't know to this day, nor does the family, whether she jumped on purpose and committed suicide, or if she just slipped by accident. But she died. Do you know about the story? So it's quite a tragic story. So people still see her walking down the street. And but can you imagine the sight of seeing this 12-year-old kid with blood all over her face and being hit by the rocks? Not a very nice scene. And I would say that she's what we call a crisis ghost. It's a type of interactive ghost which does interact with people. And she would be a crisis ghost, probably looking for help, much like the Uniondale hitchhiker. There's another type of ghost, single apparition, and they appear once. That's why it's called single apparition. Shortly after they've died, and they come back to say hello to people near and dear to them, but they only appear just that once. So that's another type of ghost. There's many types. A lot of people don't know that, and I'll be explaining more about poltergeist phenomena later on, and then residual apparitions as well. Yeah. So I don't want to go on with that story much, because it saddens me. But anyway, the staff also say there is another ghost here in this very room. We don't know who it is, and so I'm not going to lie to you and tell you and make up a story as how I know who it is, because I don't. But I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. There's something that I need to tell you before we get to the graveyard later on. People are scared of bad spirits. Well, human beings, they're bad human beings when they die, when they pass on, they can be bad spirits for quite a long time, until they're eventually purified, and then of course then they're fine again. But you don't want to meet them in the between times. I do understand people being scared of these sort of things, but there's no documented evidence of a ghost ever harming anybody, or attaching itself to somebody, or possessing somebody. That's all old wives' tales. It has nothing to do with the science of parapsychology, and you can just toss that aside as pure mythology. And we have enough trouble trying to tell people about the real ghosts. And the other things that sort of humans are scared about, as you'll discover later, unfortunately for you, in the graveyard, where we're all standing in that final circle. That is the dramatic ending. So if you leave the Conway before that, then you will have missed out. Just remember that humans are scared more of the imagination than anything else. Because when your imagination runs riot with you, even great men get weak relief. But the other thing that humans are scared of is that thing called so it is in this very room that the other ghost is seen, but nobody has been able to identify him, and we do know it's him. And so I have to say that when they come in here, they've actually never seen Africa, an apparition as such, not even a face. Some of the staff say that they hear footsteps which are quite heavy. And so that's how we know that it must be a male. The staff will also say the following, and that is that when this is about to happen, then what happens is that the air gets very, very, very thick, and it also feels very, very, very cold. I'll ask you to stand to the side here. Sorry, that's great. And in that back corner, people have seen a mist, a sort of greeny coloured mist, and we think that that is definitely associated with him. But when the ghost is about to appear, an interactive ghost, the air will feel thick, will feel cold, and the third thing is your hairs will stand up on your arms and your neck. And that's a type of electrostatic electricity. In fact, when I switch my torch off, you might even see the green mist. I'm not sure. And some people say they can hear the electrostatic electricity, which sounds a little bit like this. Yeah, so that would be the little girl that fell down the Bartons. And I'll say, out of respect, I don't want to mention the family's name, but they've asked her not to. So we don't. Anyway, we like to start the tours off with a little bit of that. And as we will discover in the graveyard, the very end, we end with a little bit of a bang as well. So. Now that's strange. Harvey. That is really strange.
The bulbs have popped. It's the dark room.
All right, well, I don't want to switch on. Somebody's not happy with us being in here. Okay, there we go. Right, folks, so we'll now be proceeding up to Park Drive. Okay, we're going to the school there called St. George's Prep. We're going inside there and onto the grounds. Got permission. Hopefully the lights will all be on tonight. Last night, the Ruby board went, something happened and the lights were all off and it was very, very spooky. I thought maybe we should keep it there. Right, so we'll deposit your glasses and your bottles and
Thank you.
So we were just in the Maritime Club now, and we didn't really get much evidence of the supernatural. In the pool room, we did get some little like flashes of stick figures, which I'm not sure if it's like real or not. And in the other room with like the ties and stuff, there wasn't anything at all. So it's like a little bit, maybe they're not as active because we are on the Saturday, not the Friday, because maybe they're just like skied away or something now, you know. But there's definitely something here, because me and my mom both have the same app. We both used it and we both got the same word. So that's something. So now we're going to St. George's Prep.
Port Elizabeth, which has been incorrectly named, because the first people that were here were the San and the Khoi. And I don't think anybody actually knows the actual name that they called it. But that's our local government for you, so they name everything after what they want, instead of what it should be.
Wasn't it the Bay of Lagoons?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't our present name come from the Bay of Lagoons?
No.
Which was the word that they used.
No, that
to
came
call
much later.
That's what I read. Port Elizabeth was beautiful, it was so romantic.
Yes, yes. Well, before anybody was here, it was the Khoi and the San, as in most places in South Africa. But anyway, I will tell you the history is that they were the first peoples over here. After them arrived the Xhosa folk, who came down as far as the Eastern Cape. None of the tribal folk from Central Africa who came to South Africa ever went to Cape Town, funny enough. They stopped short, so more this sort of area, which is kind of interesting. So it must have been a pretty decent area. So much so that when the British came out, the British didn't even want to settle in Cape Town. They settled in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. And so it's kind of interesting that. So this side of South Africa, the eastern side, is a very African side. It's got all the African bush. It's got the big five. It's got the tribal folk, and before that the Khoi and the San. That's very much the eastern side of South Africa. The western side is not. Doesn't have all of those sorts of things. But when the British did settle here, quite a few of them became very wealthy, and they were known as PE's merchant princes. And how did they make most of their money? Out of wool, believe it or not. Okay? Earlier on, we drove past the Feather Market Hall. Some of you probably might have known it. But that's where they used to sell ostrich feathers, which were just as much money and costly as gold and diamonds in those days. And so formed the PE Club, which also has a ghost in it. And so formed the Kimberley Club for diamonds and the Rand Club in Joburg for gold. So the three clubs were very closely related, funny enough. And this area that we're standing in now was called the country, because town was down the hill, and South End was where we started, right? Okay. So this was considered in the country, and it was called the Parkland. That's what it was called. The first trees were planted in 1861 in the middle of the parklands, and that today is St. George's Park. And then around what is now called Park Drive, there are certain manor houses which were called park villas, and this is one of them. And there's still a few of them that are standing around Park Drive. They're still extant and not extinct. And we'll be passing another one of them in a little while, which was also a park villa, and it became a hotel. And you will read about that on your scripts just now. So let me start with this one. This one was built in 1899 at the start of the Second Anglo-Boer War by an Irish man called John Davery. He had 7 children and a wife, And he named this place Knock Fiona. This small house of his was called Knock Fiona. Yeah, it is small, isn't it? Well, in those days they were very boastful. If you were very rich, you had a cupola, you know, like a tower on your house, or you made some statement somehow. In this case, when you go around the corner, you will see behind the ostentatious gables there that the chimneys are not single stacked chimneys, they're double stacked, which they didn't need. It was a symbol of status. So when you go around the corner, just look up and you'll see that the chimneys are twice as wide as what they should be. And the house is very well endowed, and the school does not mind if you come here during the day and have a look around. They welcome visitors because of its history, and they welcome us because it sets the stage for PE history, as you know I've told you so far. And they switch the lights on for us, especially for the tours, free of charge. So that's why we don't charge you more than 300 and whatever we charge tonight. Okay. It is quite ostentatious. At the very top of the staircase, there is a glass dome, a sun dome, which filters in the sunlight and gives it's sort of like stained glass, different colors, very colorful. But there's no sun at the moment, so you're not going to see that. But what you will see is the grand staircase there, which is really stunning. And if you look at the top of the staircase, it looks like you're looking along a long corridor until you shine your torch or look downwards, and then you see, oh, but there's a wooden frame, and you can follow it all around, and then you discover what you're looking at is actually a mirror. It's a huge, tall mirror which came from Italy, from Milan. So it's an optical illusion. So you go and look there, it's not a ghost, but it's sort of mysterious. And it looks like you're looking, it's the top of the stairs, and it looks like you're looking down a corridor, but it's not, it's actually a mirror. Just look at the bottom and you'll see the frame. And around the corner over there was the library, and on Sunday afternoons for entertainment, in those days there was no TV or radio, no TV I should say, and so John Davron used to read fairy stories from Ireland, and he read it in Gaelic, not just in Irish, and he read them to his children there in that library. In fact, the word Knock Fiona, which is the name he gave to the house, means fairies on the hill. So that's how the house got its name. Upstairs, there's a very strange bath called a needle bath. Does anybody know what a needle bath is? No. It's funny, I didn't either. But then I discovered what it was told. So it's like a bathtub, but half of it is twice as high in a U shape, and it's got lots of pipes with knobs and fountains and holes and levers, and depending on how you adjust these different knobs and levers, you can either have just a plain bath or a steam bath, or you can have a jacuzzi or a shower. So even in Victorian times they knew about jacuzzis. Okay, so that's kind of fun. So that's upstairs. If you ever get a chance to come here during the day, do ask to see the needle bath. Then around the corner were part of the stables, the horse stables. We will be going into the quadrangle, you'll see that. And then that section over there is totally new, so it didn't exist in those days. That only came about when this became a school, and it's now the St. George's Prep School. And if you look down further, the old building, those were also stables at the bottom, and the servants in those days stayed at the top. So when you go around the corner and you look at that structure down there, the domestic quarters were at the top, stables at the bottom, and then more stables in the quadrangle. And in the quadrangle, when you go there, you will also see that there's some rings on the wall with overnight hostels for visitors, were tied up onto the rings. You'll see them still on the wall there. And then also have a look at the dining room. There's 2 glass doors to shine your torch through, and it's got lovely woodwork, and it looks like something from Harry Potter. That used to be the billiard room, but it was converted into a dining room when this became a school. Now, people have reported various things here over the years, especially the days before it became a school and then after it became a school. Once it became a school, 25 years ago, the principal and his wife used to actually live on the premises here. They were called the Immelmans. And they discovered that when they went away on a weekend, that when they locked where it was no longer a library anymore, became part of a lounge, when they locked the door, when they came back from the weekend away, it would be unlocked and the door would be standing ajar. And then one night, the 2 of them were sitting here in the small lounge, and they were in opposite chairs, and there's a corridor going down here, with a doorway into the small lounge. They were both reading, and they both looked up at the same time for something past the door. Now, I spoke to both of the Immelmans at that time, and they said it was like a shadowy figure. It looked like it had a coat on, and we suspect that it is John Daverin, because he's often seen in what was a garden now, but it's a field behind you guys there, and he's smoking a pipe. Now, this could not have been a hallucination, because one person can have an hallucination, but you expect both people to, pushing the envelope a little bit. And especially on our tours when we had like 60 people sometimes when we see a full apparition. So we think it is John Daverin, and certainly up there, that's where he died, and the Immelman's daughter said that often she would feel her bed being pushed down and the smell of sweet pipe tobacco, and that matches John Daverin's history, because we know he did pass on in that room, and we know that when he's seen in the garden, he is in a long coat, and he also is smoking a pipe. The other ghost sort of seen here is a Chinese gentleman wearing a yoke across his shoulders, with buckets on either side filled with vegetables and flowers. And in his day, he would have come from Southend, because all the merchants would come on the weekend, all the way from Southend, walk up the hill to the parklands to sell to the wealthy people. Okay, and that Chinese gentleman is seen down in that area by some people sometimes. I have never ever seen him on any of the tours. I did get a glimpse once of John Daverin over here when I was walking on my own, and there were a few of the group with me, and we thought it was my assistant, and when we looked again, there was nothing there. So I've even seen John Daverin, believe it or not. Then, the other ghost appeared quite mysteriously. We were doing our tours, and I told people about the library, which now became the headmaster's office. And somebody decided to take some photographs, and they were very clever. They pushed their camera against the window pane so that when they flashed, it didn't bounce back. You know, you want to be very careful with glass. Anyway, so a number of people caught this, and it is on our website. When you go home tonight, or even now, you can go to our website, and you'll see authentic ghost photos. In 25 years, we've only got about 7. Okay, and they have been authenticated by people in America for us. And it's of a little girl. She's about this high. She's in typical Victorian attire, and we believe that to be the daughter of one of John Daverin's kids, because that's where he used to read fairy stories. Then the other one is not a ghost, but it just adds to the mystery of the place. On Sunday afternoons, an Indian gentleman used to come from Southend, walk up the hill, and he would entertain people. He would sit in their garden with a basket, and he would play a flute, and he would open up the lid, and something would come out and dance to the flute. Can you guess?
Snake
Cobra.
Yeah, a cobra. Yeah, absolutely. Cape cobras are very well known in the Cape, so ideal place. So that was the Sunday afternoon entertainment. Fairy stories, cobras, and buying flowers and vegetables and all that sort of thing. So it's got a lot of history to it, and at least now you have a history of how PE started with the Khoi and the San, later the Xhosa, then the British. Some Boer people also came here eventually, and you'll know that Petra Tiff built a number of houses in Grahamstown, Makanda area. So it's got quite a rich history. So now, I'm going to divide the group in half. One half's going to go that way into the quadrangle. Okay? Check for the rings on the wall where the horses stayed overnight, and then shine your torches in through the double doors to look at what I call the Harry Potter dining room. Okay? The other half of you, I'm going to ask you to go to that side, to where the library used to be. It's now the headmaster's office. Take some photographs, and if anybody captures the little girl, please tell me, because I would like another photograph of her. I've only got about 3 or 4. The best one is on the website. I want to even get a better one if we can. So if you capture her, do let me know. Then you guys can swap over, and you can do the other half and the other half. But when you do the swap over, walk through there, and remember to look up the staircase and the optical illusion with the mirror at the top of it. Okay. And when you walk on those tiles over there, you will see they're rather beautiful. They come from Bath in England. A lot of tiles came from Bath in England in those days. And you'll even see a few blue tiles. And blue was a very expensive color, because to try and extract blue from anything natural is very, very, very difficult. So it's worth taking one picture. Even if you're a photographer, take a picture of those tiles. They really are fantastic. Right, so now I'm going to go like this and say this is the half of the group that's the way, and this is the half of the group who are going that way.
Why'd you put the light on your phone?
Shush.
Makes it easier.
That's what I'm doing.
That used to be the stables.
Cool, huh?
Thank you. There's a toilet here as well if you want to.
Mm.
Because you go upstairs. It does look Harry Potter, eh? Very cool.
No.
Satan, I'll make your cup.
So I didn't catch like the last part of what happened at St. George's Park because my phone battery died. So he was just talking about some other stuff, telling us where else we were gonna go. It's not like very important, so it's fine.
Right, we started off with the history of the paranormal, but we didn't touch on the science of the paranormal, and that was a great part of the tour besides the ending at the cemetery. And I'm going to start like this. On a very dry, wintry day, you might touch a doorknob or a handle and you get a shock, and we call it electrostatic electricity. So we have an electrostatic force field around our bodies, but we also have an electrochemical force field around our bodies. How do we know that? How do we prove that? Very easy, medical science. An electroencephalogram, an EEG, they don't stick a needle into your brain to measure the electricity. They just put a patch on the outside of your scalp, and they can measure the force field of the electrochemical electricity. It's the chemicals that creates the electricity that runs your brain and your nervous system, which goes throughout your whole body. So that's the second force field we have around us. We have another 3. I hope you eat well. If you don't, I hope you take your vitamins and minerals, because we've got a lot of minerals in our bodies. And when they flow around in a circle, they can create a force field too, when they flow through your bloodstream. For instance, iron, if it's slightly magnetic, can create a magnetic force field. Another one might create magnesium, let's say, could create an electromagnetic force field, and then finally any one of them can create an electric force field. In fact, everything has an electric force field around it, even the blade of grass down there. Why? Because everything is made of atoms, and the electrons and the protons give off negative and positive electric force fields. But we have 5, we actually have more than 5, but we won't go into all that detail. You only need to know about the 5 at this point. It's called the biofield, it's accepted in science. Some psychic people claim that they can see it and they call it an aura. It's like your astral body. I'm going to ask you a question. When you were small, when you had a bad nightmare, and you woke up, and you wanted to call out for your mother, sometimes you'd open your mouth and nothing came out. Do you remember that? Okay, I can see I have to warm you up a little bit. Do you remember when you were a child, you had a bad nightmare, and you woke up, and you went like this, and fuck all came out? Oh, there you are, I have to be a comedian, I swear. That's because your astral body drifts off every night. It's connected to you by a thin stream. Some people call it a silver cord or a golden cord. Pure mythology. No such thing, just a thin stream. When you wait for your entire astral body to rejoin you, then you can get your volume out and call to your mother. I'm not talking about sleep paralysis. That's a natural phenomenon when your brain tries to relax your body for some other reason. And the chemicals go a little bit haywire, and you feel very heavy in your bed, and people say, oh, and I felt something pushing down on me, and it's called black shapes. It's not ghostly phenomenon, it's called sleep paralysis. Okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a bad nightmare when your astral body drifts off. I'll give you another example of that. Somebody says, I saw you at Pick n Pay today at 3 o'clock, and you say, no, that's impossible. I was in hospital having my appendix out. I was under general anesthetic. Well, guess what? Your body, you've heard of astral traveling, the astral body did go to Pick n Pay while you were under anesthetic. And it was there at 3 o'clock, and that's what your friend saw. What they usually say is, wasn't you, it must have been your double. That's where the word Doppelganger comes from, which is a German word for double walker. Here's another example. You go overseas, you're very happy and you're feeling very euphoric. You're not under general anesthetic, but you are in an altered state, you're feeling euphoric and happy. And you've never been to Rome before, and you're in Rome and you turn a street corner and you go, I've seen this street before. But you've never been there before. Well, what's happening there is exactly that, yes. Is that you're in this euphoric state, in an altered state. Your astral body, you're so relaxed, has gone around the corner a split second before your physical body caught up, and you see the scene twice, and yes, we call it déjà vu. So these are examples of what we call living ghosts. I know that must sound very strange to you. There's a third type called a Vardøger, which is a Norwegian word for front walker. That's where the astral body goes ahead of time to make an announcement to a community or to friends or family. It's usually in the form of a warning. So these are the 3 types of living ghosts. Okay? So that's kind of interesting. Now we go to other mammals besides ourselves, like horses, dogs, and especially cats. Sometimes a horse will bolt in the veldt even though there's not a snake there. It's seeing a spirit. Have you seen dogs barking at fresh air? Have you seen one barking at a wall or in a corner of your room? You don't know what it's barking. It's seeing a spirit, that's what it's seeing. Cats, who owns a cat? You know what they like?
Yeah.
They're very psychic. They can see these things very clearly. Say you're sitting at home on your own, and you're in your lounge, there's nobody else in the house, and you feel something's not right. In Afrikaans we like to say, it's nie reg. And your hair stands up on your arms, your neck, and you're in the lounge, there's a low light burning, you're sitting in your chair reading a book, your cat's in the corner, and you notice the cat suddenly looks up like this, and its eyes get big, and it follows something around your lounge that you cannot see, and you quietly say to yourself, what is it looking at? It's looking at a spirit that you cannot see, that's what it is. So the next time that happens to you, maybe there's some thunder and lightning to add to the effect, don't go what the fuck, just run, it's so much easier. Then we have a thing called ESP, extrasensory perception, so you can see things beyond your 5 senses. That's why I explained the force field. So if my force fields come and overlap with your force fields, I should be able to read your mind and you should be able to read my mind. Do you believe me?
Yes.
You do believe me? Is there somebody that doesn't believe me? I want volunteers. Who? All right, great. Come stand.
Sorry, what?
Everybody else, shine your lights onto him and me, please.
Sorry, what? He doesn't believe.
You've got a British accent.
I know.
You lived in England?
Nope.
Oh, where did you get it from?
Friends online.
Oh, I was going to say the spirits, probably. Right, so he doesn't believe in force fields or mind reading. We're going to see about that. It's going to be interesting. Have you played cards before?
Played cards? A few.
Good. Because 25 years ago I didn't ask that question, and I learned very quickly I could. Because I said to the lady afterwards, what card did you pick? And she said, MasterCard. Well, and I've taken the 2 jokers out of here, so there are no jokers in this deck. Alright, so, would you please face the audience, close your eyes, our force fields are overlapping. I'm going to think of one of the cards now, and I'm going to send it through our force fields into your mind. What is the first card that you can think of?
Can I open my eyes?
Yeah?
Okay. 7 of spades.
7 of spades, and you're a skeptic.
Yes.
When I open this deck, there shall be a 7 of spades inside.
He said only the jokers are gone.
Will you please hold my deck? Once I mispronounced that. It's very embarrassing. I was with a lady as well. So now I'm a little bit more careful. Can you just shine on here, because I did something to this deck before tonight. I'm just trying to find out where. But I did turn a card upside down somewhere in it.
Oh, there it is.
Wait. Oh, there. Oh, quite right. Yes, there it is. What did you say?
7 of spades.
Yes, 7 of spades.
Wow. Wow.
Wow, that's just magic.
I was hoping you were going to say that it's just magic. But I can prove that it's not. I can prove I did this before the tour.
Do me.
How can I prove? Easy. Shine on this deck, please. What color are these cards? Red. I took this out of an entirely different deck before the tour tonight.
Give me the Latin numbers.
And that's the only one. Thank you very much. Give him a big hand. So with force fields, we can start understanding ghosts a lot better. We were talking about energy bunching up and force fields bunching up to cause apparitions, ghosts, and what have you. But now I want to do something which will tell you about poltergeist phenomena. That's why I asked for keys. So who brought keys? Keep your lights shone on me, because I need lots of light, please. Who brought a key? There's lots of you, so I hope one of you brought. Yes. Right, will you just hold that up for everybody? And just make sure it's straight, because sometimes old keys or spare keys are a little bit bent, and when that happens, then it doesn't help. Is that straight? Have you checked it?
Is it straight? Yeah, it's straight.
All right, very good. Everybody else, please get your cell phones out now and go to video, because if this works, you are going to want to video it, okay? Very important. I need lots of light on this, so please switch your torches on. I'm going to take the key and I'm going to just dip it very gently into my hand here so that it can wobble. Can you see it's wobbling there? And I'm going to pull on the force fields of the key with my force fields and hope that it will work. This works 8 out of 10 times. If it does not work, I have a spoon and I will use the spoon. There's 2 ways to do this. One way is to put the key into a vise and hit it with a hammer and bend it. The other way is a thing called psychokinesis, and I will explain that better in a moment. Just shine on the key. Okay, this is good, it's warming up. So I think it's going to work. It's going to go now.
That was cool.
It's going to be difficult to get home. Well done. Wow. I've never seen that done before. Wow.
Thank you very much. You now have a souvenir. Psychokinesis. Psycho comes from the Greek word psyche, which means mind or soul. Kinesis means movement and energy. So it's mind over matter. I said to you, when we do the science of the paranormal, I will explain poltergeist phenomena better to you. Poltergeist phenomena, as we know, there's no such thing as a poltergeist. No? It's called RSPK. You already know what the P and the K stands for. Psychokinesis, mind over matter. R stands for recurrent, because the phenomena happens again and again. In 2000, that house had the phenomena for weeks. It happens suddenly, spontaneously. So spontaneous is the S. RS, recurrent spontaneous. Psychokinesis. RSPK, recurrent spontaneous. Psychokinesis is the name, the proper scientific name for poltergeist phenomena. I'm going to end off with a science talk before we have some fun with some dowsing rods. Going back to quantum physics one more time. There are 4 laws of thermodynamics. Don't worry about the terminology. You just have to know that the first law is called the law of conservation. And this is what it says. I'm sure most of you know it. It says energy is never created. Energy is never destroyed. Energy can only be transferred or transformed, which means that when you die one day, your energy has to go somewhere because it cannot be destroyed. And that is why you will never hear me say that somebody passed away. I always say they passed on. Big difference. Right, Michael, can you hand me some dowsing rods and I'll just show them here.
Coming through.
Folks, what we're going to do now is have some fun. So shine your lights on me, please. You're going to use the force fields around your own bodies to overlap with the force field around the water in this river that is flowing along here. It's quite a wide river and the force field extends quite a few meters onto the land. So if you go close enough towards the river, the rods will work. Some people use a willow branch, or in Afrikaans what's called a mikstok. It's a forked branch. People do this to find, they go on farms and they're trying to look for water and they want to sink a borehole. You all know the story. But you don't realize that you're using your own force fields around your body to overlap with the force fields around the water that's deep down in the ground. Because that force field is large, it extends, just like it extends here. And the closer you get to these reeds, then the better the rods will actually work. So this is what happens. Hold them like this. Shine on me, please. I need lots of light. Hold them loosely like I held the key. Put your thumbs up, please, like that. If you put your thumbs on there, they're not going to move. Thumbs up. Secondly, please make sure they're at hip height We're not liable for any damages. If you're up here and somebody turns around and you poke their eyes out, they're going to murder you and then sue you. Then the next thing is, please keep the rods wide apart. Some people say, oh, my rods are not working. Well, the rods are not broken. It's because you're doing this. It must be wide apart. Lastly, they must be parallel to the ground. That's not parallel. This here, the gentlemen do this. They drop their rods. You got the joke. So gentlemen, keep your rods up, please. And these ones as well. Good. So you know what to do? You're going to grab some rods from Michael. I'm going to stand there and I want you to make a line behind me. That means 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, not 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. A line, okay? Why? Because we're going to walk now to where Michael has placed the torch over there, and that's close enough. The force field has overlapped from the road right up to here, well to there, and your rods for most of you will cross like this. For some of you they will open up. If you're very sensitive, you'll find both rods will point to the water. So it will either be like that, or it will open up, or both rods will point to the water. And then when you leave that area, they'll just go back to being normal again. We're going to go around in a circle twice. Okay. Then the third and the fourth time, I want you to do this. Put 2 rods in one hand. And see if they split open like that when you get to the water force field. Then on the last time, the 5th time, do it the way that worked the best for you, either this way or that way. So we're going to start this way, okay? So grab some rods from Michael there and join me over here. I really got worried because I'm in the car and I see 2 cars behind me. And I thought, where the hell has the convoy gone? That's why I got out my car. Keep coming round so everybody can fit in. You need to see the, yeah, you can come around the corner. Whose grave is this? John Devereux. Do you remember when we were at Knockfiona, his house, which is St George's Prep, and his family, his wife Clotilda is here as well, and not all the family members were here, but some of them. And funny enough, on our tours a few years ago, the great-grandchildren, who are now in their 50s, 60s, Daveron's great-grandchildren, were on the tour with us. So I took a photograph here at the grave, and the brother to this lady is my auditor, PKF or Hoffman, whatever they call it, my auditor. So his name is Mark Devereux. So it's a very famous grave to take a photograph of for historical purposes. If you would like it for hysterical purposes, meaning that people say, oh, you went on the ghost tour, what did your guide look like? And they say, oh Sherbert, we didn't take a photograph of him. So what I will do is take your cell phones out and I will pose for a photograph and you can show your friends. How's it? So here I am. I will do it like this. I will face this way first, then to the middle and then to the side. So you guys ready? I'll try and look as ugly as possible. I don't look like that already. Right, ha. And ha. And ha. Right, if you want to take a picture of the grave on its own because it is historical, do so now, and we're going to walk down there. when you see a column like this cut off, it's not vandalism, it's deliberate. That means the person's life was cut short, so they died very young. 90% of the time. 10% of the time they were working on a project and they didn't complete the project, and they also did the symbols. This case is the more obvious one. Person died very young, as you can see there, age 29 years old. Alright, we're going to go down to the next grave. Right, earlier on when we stopped at Howe Avenue there on Park Drive, you heard about the nuns walking up the roads that appear as ghosts, because there was a nunnery behind the hospital, which in those days was called St. Joseph's, and it was owned and run by the nuns, and they were called the Company of Mary, and you can see that over there on the plaque. Each of these little stones used to have a miniature cross on it, but they were stolen. And then there's a white gentleman in a bucky that comes here and steals all the metal railing during the day and sells it for scrap metal. They did video him, but they didn't get his number plate. So hopefully he'll get caught sometime, because it's rather terrible. Right, now listen, we got a little bit of a walk. We're going to walk along here and across to an open mausoleum, so please don't drag your heels, because I don't want this to end too late, okay? Right, let's go inside. Just don't step on this dark part here, please.
This place.
Please keep coming around. You can come around to the back part of me as well. The problem with history is not always well kept, unfortunately. As historians will tell you, it's not always well kept, and so you don't always know. And I've never found out, but I guess, looking at the verdigris up there, that there must have been copper running up. Yeah, that's what I think. I can't prove it because I have looked in the history books and can't find it. Eh?
No, it wouldn't have been left like that when it was built, so there was something there.
Yes, absolutely. That's sort of fallen down over the years. So this is called a mausoleum, and this is an open mausoleum. Usually they're closed. Something when I lived in America that I found very fascinating was when I went to New Orleans. Or as the Americans say, New Orleans. And I went to go and see where Louis Armstrong, the famous singer, was buried. And all the graves are 6 feet above the ground, not below the ground. You know that? Yeah. Why? Because there's a swamp. Yeah. So you don't want smelly bodies under the ground. So they're all 6 feet up rather than 6 feet up. I don't know how all of these are buried here. Maybe they're upright. I don't know. Hope we're not standing. I haven't found history of how they were buried. Unfortunately, there's no history on that at all. But what I can tell you is that this man here, John McWilliams, came from Ireland. He was very famous in his day, a very prominent businessman and so forth, served on the council and so on. But more importantly, it was his son, also a McWilliams, okay, who formed an architectural company with a guy called Jones, and they were called Jones and McWilliams. Now, most of the places that you've seen tonight that are important they were the architects who designed those places. Jones and McWilliams are responsible for a lot of the architecture in Port Elizabeth. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Now, his son, so that will be the grandson now of John, was a guy called Herbert McWilliams. I knew him as a schoolboy because he came to alter my school, which is Grey High School. And he was a gay man, and he had a partner called Albert Mile, who was a sea captain, German gentleman. And the two of them lived out at Amsterdam Hook, at a place called the Poop. If you know anything about ships, you know what the Poop means. And they also had another house in Schoenmakers called the Quarterdeck. Anyway, in those days, gay couples were not allowed to marry, let alone have children, and they were multi-billionaires. Absolute billionaires. I used to find Herbert a little bit rude. I was invited to a party once, because I was in the theatre, so I had a lot of gay friends. And I was invited, and he gave me a thing called a Negroni, which was a red drink. And I was with some very prominent people, but they knew that I wasn't a stupid person. I was only 17. And Herbert says to me, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, what is this?" He says, "It's a Negroni." I said, "Oh, what is that?" He said, "Well, the part of Port Elizabeth you come from, you wouldn't know what that was." I said, "Mr. McWilliams, the part of Port Elizabeth that I come from wouldn't utter such words." And my lawyer friend, who was in his 60s over there, just tapped me on the back and said, "Well done." But otherwise, Herbert could be a very nice guy. I didn't know him that well, but he invented a yacht called the Sprague. In 1948, he won the World Olympics for yachting for South Africa, and he was also a war artist. And because they had no children, they had to do something with all their billions. So what they did was they donated it to what was called UPE and Technicon. Now they're conjoined. And then to the retirement villages like Echo Village and all that. So they gave to the young and to the old. And so it's quite nice that they actually did that for society. And Albert died first, and they said, Herbert said to his lawyer, "You must keep the ashes, and when I go one day, put the two ashes together and throw them into the Swartkorps River opposite our house there in Amsterdam Hook." And so that's exactly what happened. So as they were joined in life, so they were joined in death. So it ended up becoming quite a sweet story, and I've forgiven Herbert for attacking me about a Negroni. He could be a bit pompous. So this is their mausoleum, their family mausoleum. Over the years, when we first came here 25 years ago, it was in pristine condition. But the graveyards they're getting ruined around the country. They really are. The municipalities are just not looking after them very well. But sad as that may be, I'm also here to tell you another maritime story, since both of them were also involved with the maritime discipline. Okay. So can we switch our lights off while I tell you this? In the distance that way is the point known as Cape Recife, which is the division between the two bays. Port Elizabeth is lucky enough to have two bays. It has Algoa Bay on this side, which is facing east, and has the bay on that side which faces west. So you can go there and see the sunset on the sea. And that's also because Port Elizabeth is more south than Cape Town. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Bit of trivia. Cape Recife Lighthouse. It was 1864, and the lighthouse keeper looked out at sea and saw a ship. It was a strange sight, really. Kind of misty, gloomy. There was just a single light on one of the masts. And when he looked through his binoculars, he saw that it was a bit like that international ghost story of the Marie Celeste ship, the ghost ship. Because on this ship, there was not a soul on board. Not a soul on board. Take him out.
Yeah, I don't know.
He saw that the distress signal was flagged, and so he sent a message to the harbour master that it was the ship that hit it and was floating out at sea. And nobody could work this out. It took quite a while, and everybody believed this was a ghostly incident. The people aboard had vanished. But after a short while it was learned that the ship was called the Cynthia, and it had hit one of those dangerous reefs at Cape of Sea. Port Elizabeth being a graveyard of shipwrecks, just like Cape Town's Cape Point is a graveyard of shipwrecks. They're the two most dangerous ones in South Africa, shipwrecks, those two points. And what was found was that he deemed the ship unseaworthy, and a passing ship called the Silver Eagle picked up all the people aboard and deposited them on St. Helena Island. 3 months later, when they were returned to Port Elizabeth Harbour, the captain was very surprised to find that his ship had been towed to the harbour, even though it had been wrecked. But just the strange thing, maybe there is a ghostly element to it. Because think now of the ship being wrecked on a reef, it's left there for days, and it's rising and falling with the tide, and something's got to stop it moving forward or backward or sideways in case it gets more damaged. It's like there were unseen hands that were guiding the wheel to keep it safe enough for it to use. Who did those unseen hands belong to? I don't know. It remains a mystery to us every day. But it is almost PE's version of the Marie Celeste, which is often mispronounced as Marie, but it's actually Mary. I'm talking about shipwrecks and disasters. Please follow me over here. On the very last night of August 1902, right through to the next day of the 1st of September 1902, one of the greatest storms ever hit Port Elizabeth. Very famous, and it was called the Great Gale. Now, according to which history book you follow, they differ. Between 18 and 21 ships and tugs either sank or were washed up on the north end beach, which used to be at the bottom of Albany Road. And according to which book you read, 41 up to 41 people lost their lives. Some of the people that lost their lives were some of the people that went out to go and rescue the people at sea, and they drowned themselves. 4 men drowned, and so that is erected over there for them. Aboard the ship was a Swiss man called Captain F. Ossing, and it says here Ruhe in Frieden, which means rest in peace in Swiss, gewidmet von seinen Freunden, donated by friends. This was donated by the public It says they're erected by public subscription. The caretaker over here told me a story once and said people walk their dogs here quite a lot, and in the distance sometimes they see shadowy figures walking up here and they think, well, they're having an optical illusion. I don't know whether the shadowy figures are ghosts or not, or what these people have seen. I haven't seen anything here myself. I have seen other things in the graveyard. Best I not tell you about it here. But anyway, this is a very, very famous grave. So, and that's a very famous mausoleum. So you're not going to see one of those again very easily. So take a photograph of that while you can. Take a photograph of that while you can, and then we'll go to our second last story. That's an old trick of mine, to walk further than I should. Why do I do that? Because then I get everybody in the middle of the group. See? Next to me here is a symbolism again. This one is called the Greek urn. There's the urn or the vase. And you'll see there's a cloth that only goes around the back but not the front. That shows you that you're passing from the one life to the other life. Do you remember what I said earlier on? You don't pass away, you pass on. Okay, so it's a rather nice symbolism, really. This used to stand up on there. It's not vandalism, it's the PE wind. So some of the graves were pushed over, unfortunately. So I was hoping that I would get another story for the graveyard, and there was a lady historian back then, but I could never get hold of her to give me stories. So I just came and did my own research and thought I'd just look things up. So I was standing here with my son, and I had my satchel with my books in it, and I had a camera and I had a clipboard, and I was writing down names of certain graves and all of that. And a man and his two, I think they were Great Danes, dogs, came up. No, I think that they were Labradors. Sorry. He came up here and he said, "Oh, are you doing some historical research?" I said, "No, but if I do tell you what I'm doing, you'll probably become hysterical." So he said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to find ghost stories." And then he said to me, "I'll tell you one." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes, at this very grave that you're at." So I said, "Oh, well, what happened?" He said, "Well, a lot of us walk our dogs through here. The other day, I came to check the graveyard just to see how it looked. And I met a couple that were walking with their young daughter and dogs. So people still walk their dogs here. But this was quite a long time ago, 25 years ago. Mr. Kinghorn was his name. I don't know if any of you know him. He lives in the vicinity. I don't know if he's still alive. And so he said to me that he was walking along there on that path, which goes deeper into the cemetery towards the crematorium eventually, and his two dogs stopped, and he didn't know why. Remember I said earlier on, mammals can see these better than we can. Kids often can see them better than we can. You know, a lot of people also think kids are playing with imaginary friends. We've got a case in Pretoria at the Spoor case, the Erasmus Castle, where this kid was playing with not an imaginary friend, because the imaginary friend was dressed in old-fashioned clothing. So she was playing with a ghost. Anyway, he saw a lady. In those days, before it was stolen, there was fencing here. And so I used to open this gate that used to be here. Anyway, the gate was open, and so he didn't know why the dogs had stopped. So he looked up here, and he saw a lady bending forward in old-fashioned clothing, putting down red flowers. He said to me he couldn't tell if they were carnations or roses because it was too much of a distance. But then he said, "Come boys, let's go." Come. And as he came to look back here, 2 seconds later, She was gone. There was no place for her to go to. There's no trees or hedges or something for her to hide behind. Besides, as he said, she was dressed in old-fashioned clothing. So I said, well, I can tell you what type of ghost that is, since you've been good enough to tell me the story. I said, but I will need to confirm it first, so let's look at the tombstone. So that's what I did. But before I show you that, I want to tell you something sad. Here it says, at rest, Corporal David Klein died from wounds received in action at Mafeking, 17th October 1899, only 25 years old. So that's Second Anglo-Boer War. And how sad that day is. This was an unnecessary death if you think about it, because if they had antibiotics in those days, maybe he would not have died from wounds. These folks, I don't know what they died from, but what's interesting is they were both 72. John William Allen, 72 years and 4 months, and his wife Annie Allen, 72 years. And this is where I was able to work out what was going on, because he died in 1909 and she died in 1931. So I said to him, what happens here is that the explanation is that during life, this lady would have come here, the wife, and repeatedly, maybe monthly or yearly, whatever the case may be, and put down red flowers. And she is recorded onto the environment, and so she's not actually an interactive ghost. Now this might sound a bit strange to you. An interactive ghost is a soul, is a spirit. Soul and spirit is the same thing. Okay? There's some people like to split the difference, I don't. But it will interact with you. This is not this. This is what we call a residual apparition. And they're very well known. You can go onto the internet and look at the oldest one we know of from the Bronze Age. It's about 5,000 years old. It's just called the Bronze Age Horseman. Remember that? The Bronze Age Horseman. Go and read that story. Very, very interesting. It's the oldest residual apparition we know of. They don't last forever. Depending how strong the energy was, they'll be imprinted on the environment. And it's like a car battery that runs flat. Eventually they fade. Eventually that's just a presence. Eventually you feel nothing of them. So they are recorded onto the environment, usually on stonework, of which there is stonework. Yeah? It's called the stone tape theory, but it can be imprinted on anything hard, even woodwork, bricks, but not metal. Metal will disturb it. So this gate was open, and so the metal did not disturb her image, because you see this imprint or recording onto the environment plays back like a loop, and it's like a video. That's all it is. So it's not a soul, it's not a spirit, it's not an interactive ghost. It is just a residual apparition that is recorded on the environment and replays like a video. Let me be a bit more explanatory. If I live in my house and I'm very stressed, I can cause my own poltergeist phenomena, which indeed I did when I was 16 years old. I was very stressed. It was a very personal thing. I don't want to talk about it. But I caused my own poltergeist phenomena. It scared the hell out of me, and I didn't know what poltergeist phenomena was in those days. Anyway, I was treated by a psychologist, and the stress went away and the phenomena stopped. But there's another thing I can cause, or any of us can cause, when you're stressed or highly emotionally charged. Now remember, this lady that came here must have been very highly emotionally charged, because she's coming to put down flowers for her husband. She's sad. And because of that, her energy fields around her body are recorded on the environment. So I'm stressed or highly emotionally charged. I walk through my doorway every day of my life, and my energy fields are imprinted onto the environment, which is the hardwood of the doorway, all the stonework, all the brickwork around the door. So when I pass on one day, somebody might see the image of me coming through the door, like a video, and then just fading away. So they are seeing a residual apparition of me. They might get tired of seeing that, and they might decide to brick up the doorway and make a doorway somewhere else, okay? But that won't help. Why won't it help? I'll tell you why. Because if you brick up the doorway, the old structure is still around the doorway on which I am imprinted and recorded, right? And so the apparition will follow its old path and go through the wall. So I want you to remember two words or two phrases here because they become important in a moment. The one is old structure and the other one is old path. So to the residents of the house, they will think that the ghost is walking through a wall. Well, number one, humans don't walk through walls. Why would ghosts? It's because this is not an interactive ghost. It is a residual apparition. That's all it is, and it's just following its old path. Now, when I lived overseas, I went on many ghost tours. I liked them. They were 90% history and 10% ghost story, and that was it. There was no science of the paranormal. There was no explanation of the different types of ghosts. There were no live examples like key bending or mind reading or water divining. There were no scares as such. And because I come from a very diverse background, including the theatre, I thought I would like to change that and have science and entertainment and history and all these things mixed together, which is what we've done tonight, as you've seen. And when I came back to South Africa, I wanted to start these ghost tours as of the year 2000, because in 1999 I used to do all the big shows like the David Copperfield shows, big illusion shows. But unfortunately I was hit by a truck in my motorhome which damaged 9 of my discs in my spine, so that's given me a lot of problems with mobility. Doesn't affect the ghost tours, but it does affect me as an illusionist because I can't creep into tiny places to make myself appear or disappear or whatever. And so I thought this is time to start the ghost tours in South Africa, which we duly did at the Grahamstown National Arts Festival, as I told you earlier on. And it sold out, and then I realized we could do it in the big cities around South Africa. So that's what we've tried to do tonight. And have you guys enjoyed yourselves? Sort of
Yeah, thank you for the history lesson for one. And
information.
yeah, about these places.
So anyway, just before I started the tours, I looked for a ghost tour in South Africa and I couldn't find any, except there was one in Kimberley. Not knowing there was one in my own hometown, which my friend Rose Trahaven, I knew their sons, they went to school with them. She used to do ghost walks in Central. She passed on 7 years ago. We did a special tour for her and collected money for animals and all that. But anyway, I went on the Kimberley Ghost Walk to find it was the same as the overseas tours, 90% history, 10% ghost story, and that's that. But there was one story that really captured me. At this point, I didn't believe in residual apparitions. I kind of believed in interactive apparitions, sort of, until I saw them with people on my tours, then I believed them. But I had a problem with residual apparitions like this one. The story at the Kimberley Club was that there was a little old lady having tea on the tea room floor, and she reported to management that she saw a British soldier from the Second Anglo-Boer War walk across the floor, but he had no feet. Now, how did she know he was from the Second Anglo-Boer War? Well, that was easy. He was dressed in khaki. In the First Anglo-Boer War, which only lasted 3 months, the British dressed in red. And that's why they were shot so easily, by the way, in the veldt. And they lost that. The Second Anglo-Boer War, nobody won. It was settled by the Peace Treaty of Verona. Anyway, staff and management had heard the story many times from many people, and some of them themselves had seen this ghost. And this little old lady, they never heard an older lady tell a story before. And she didn't want any gain or fame. In fact, they never heard from her again. And so they assembled a team and they went downtown and they spoke to elderly people, book authors, historians. They went to the archives. They went everywhere. They came back with nothing. Months went by and somebody was clearing up in the attic. And up there was a scroll, which was an architectural plan. And when they unraveled it, it showed that there was a previous dance floor, which was a French-sprung wooden dance floor, like they had at the Park Hotel that we passed tonight. And of course it had spring in it. Today people dance on cement and they wonder why they get such sore feet. But that floor is drawn in on the architectural plan, all warped. The plans do not say what caused the warpage, maybe water damage, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that that floor is still there. And the plans show that a new floor was built 20 centimeters higher. And you can walk along that floor and open the trap door and see the lower floor 20 centimeters lower. So in other words, the residual apparition, which is the soldier ghost, is imprinted on the old structure, which is the lower floor, right? And it's walking along its old path, which is the lower floor. And because there is a newer floor in its place that is higher, of course she won't see. And I've left this till last because you see, even the most hardened skeptics in the group, which are usually the men, by the way. I've seen some men jump at the end. I left it to last because this is the part which really tells people how very credible these stories are.